Alright, hello there everyone. This is a part 3 to modifying XMLs. This one's just going to be a quick one. I don't have it plugged into my monitor, so it might be a little bit slower because I'm looking at it at an angle. But either way, this is just going to be a simple, quick one. All it is I'm showing how to modify the mass per liter of most items. You can also modify price per liter if you would want to. I won't, just because I personally don't find any real benefit to it outside of just getting everything for free, but I don't understand enough to know if it's also affecting sell price or just buy price. So I won't modify it myself. You can if you'd like. And this is the mass per liter. Basically, if you don't want to go into your forage wagons, your trailers, your augers, and all that other stuff, including equipment that would hold it like a harvester, you can actually go into maps fill types, which if you go right to the folder that your game is in, I'll show this again just in case you didn't watch any of the other two. You're in Farming Simulator 2022. Depending on where you have your Steam folder located, it's in Steam Apps, then it's in Data. Wait, I'm just going to go back to it. I might as well. So if I go to this, I should be able to see storage space G. So this is where mine is. That's exactly what you think it is. And normally it would be in Windows. Let's see, probably like around here. Usually it's in program files, but there is stuff in Steam for x86, but normally it's just in program files. That's just where most things sit that you'd actually be sifting through. But this right here I just have in my Steam library, Steam apps, common, and then fs22. I'll go back real quick because I did go quite fast there, but it's just Steam library. And you go to Steam apps. Don't worry about this stuff. You can't modify those types of files anyway. I mean, you can modify a DLL. It's server side, so it doesn't matter if you can or not. Common, and then whatever game you're trying to modify. You can modify stuff in Skyrim. Add in mods. Dying Light 2 is kind of a pain in the ass, just so you know. It's one of those finicky ones. Fallout 3, you can do the same thing. New Vegas, obviously, same thing. But Farm Simulator 2022 is where you want to go, and you can go into data. But you can also modify things like this, but there's nothing on them as far as I can tell, not much anyway. So, not much you can do with it. But, what the hell did I close that? Where'd it go? But either way, going to right into maps, straight from data. So you go to data, go all the way down. I have it sorted alphabetically, so, and then it's down to maps. And you can go to map US or French, or if you don't want to modify those specifically, some of these they do have specific modifications, but usually if you just click on here, it's just stuff like the buildings and all of that. But you can go to fill types. Now it is fill types right there. That's what I have opened right here. And you can just basically go to any one of the items. So I see right now I have grass windrow and grass, which is just called meadow here. The only difference being the painted texture is the meadow, as far as I can understand. And the windrow of it is like if you windrow it, it's just in a line. I don't really know why that would make too much of a difference, but it does here, as far as the code understands and the game understands. So I would modify that as well, because some of these are clumped up like this one, because this is specifically dealing with the meadow being windrowed. So there you go. There's also ones up here. These are all, things that are clumped up together. For some reason, these two. And all you have to do, I haven't modified all of them, but just go here. 0.01 is what I personally do. Make sure it's in the quotation marks. If it's outside of the quotation marks, obviously it won't work, because the quotes is the value you're trying to represent. And it's as simple as that. Literally just doing that. You can make it weigh more, you can make it weigh less. I mean, it's, you know, it's a 1-to-1 ratio, but it's all in like pounds or kilos, depending on if you, I don't think you can change actually that, but you might be able to, but generally speaking, it's in kilos. So if you wanted to weigh a kilo per liter, you put it as 1. Very easy to understand. You want to modify def, you can. The only reason I would modify it though is, you know, if you really want to, def, air, electric charge, and methane, and especially snow. Snow, if you even have it turned on, you can turn it on. There are mods in fs19 that increase workload for how much is being harvested or plowed or whatever, and there are mods now in fs22 that are similar to that. If you want to make it easier, you can decrease the weight. If you want to make it slightly more realistic, slightly harder, you can increase that farther. Air and def and electric charge and methane, you don't have to care about those. There's only one vehicle currently with methane. I've heard there's another mod coming in that has another methane vehicle, but it doesn't weigh anything. Neither does electric charge, neither does air, so you don't have to worry about those. Def, unless you use the mod for it to actually really do anything, you don't really need to do anything with it. And diesel, you can decrease the weight for it if you're planning on carrying it in vehicles that carry like the 30,000, the 25,000 and upwards range of thousands of liters. You know, if you want to carry like 25k liters of diesel, you probably should decrease the weight to at least half. I haven't seen much issue up to the 50,000 point because it weighs just as much as water does, a 1-to-1 ratio, liters to weight, kind of like a current exig 1-to-1. So that's the only time I've actually had issues with it. For the most part, you won't have issues and you won't have to modify it. Same with crops. If you're not modifying the actual values, like quadrupling them, not doubling, you can usually do double, which is fine. But if you're quadrupling, if you're quintupling, going straight up to 7 or 8 times, you need to modify these values just a little bit lower if you don't want to add in the update mass equals false to every one of the things that you're doing. It's just a quicker and more efficient way of doing it. And that's all I'm showing right here. There is a way as well, if you really want to. Eggs is up top, stuff like that's up top. Closer to the middle of the crop section. You can also modify that on pallets, and you can modify things like flour and bread on pallets. I won't be modifying those because I personally use the mod that everything new is automatically 100 kilograms, which means it's at that point where you can lift it. If you do not use that mod, and you want it to be a little easier to handle, you know, or just as easy pretty much anyway, it is, you can actually modify how much mass they have per liter, which is very simple. Just like I said before, right there, done, that weighs less. Some of them do obviously weigh more than others. Eggs are lighter. I'm pretty sure, I would assume anyway, that cloves would be heavier and sugar would be less. You know, you can actually modify those values there. And that's as simple as that. See, furniture is a 1. You've also got bales. You can actually modify this. I would suggest at very least modifying cotton bales, because at the current point, without the mod currently being released anyway for the trailers that carry the multiple bales and autoload, yes, that is supposedly coming to console as well. Luckily, I would at least modify squares of cotton bales and round cotton bales. And the reason I would do this is, well, it's obvious. They're very cumbersome, especially on the base game map. If you're not very good with backing up those kinds of trailers and unloading them precisely, and you're like, oh crap, well, I ran out of space, because obviously they're about 20,000 per. So if you run out of space and you have to buy to know how much is in there, or play it enough, and you're a beginner, you don't want to have it just sitting there. You want to use that for whatever you want. Maybe you want to sell it, whatever you want to do, and it's hard, obviously, just to maneuver that trailer around to load it in without autoloading. So I would reduce that weight, so that way if you do mess up, you can just pick it up and put it wherever you need so you can load it back on and sell it or store it wherever you need to. So at least I would recommend those. Especially considering the square cotton one, you have to use a fucking semi-truck for it to. I think that's a semi-loader. Also, don't change if it says it can hold a certain amount of bales on a wagon. Don't change it. It'll crash your game. It's not really a matter of that code saying you can hold this much. It's usually a matter of the 3D model and the work areas saying you can hold that much. It's like modifying at the very top of anything like a harvester or forage wagon, anything but the buy price. You can change the name to whatever you want. It's not going to change anything but the name. You can change the price to whatever you want. It's not going to change anything but the name. But if you change the horsepower in that, it's not going to change anything but what it says. Same thing. It just says it holds more bales when it doesn't. Yeah, simple as that. You can also change things like manure and liquid fertilizer. Liquid fertilizer is something you should modify, especially when things like the new mods that are the case mods, like the sprayer and all that. If you played this game long enough, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I would recommend changing at least those values because the suspension in those things is fucking insane. I'm not gonna not swear. That's just who I am. I swear. Do metal vocals. I really couldn't care less about doing swearing when my most interesting songs are from bands like Infinite Annihilator. Now, digestate isn't necessarily an important one to modify unless you're using it instead of slurry. But if you're using a lot of, if you're doing a lot of biogas station work, I would recommend doing that. If you're not gonna, again, put update mass equals false on everything. I'll type that value out real quick just so you can see what it is. And by type, I mean that. Update mass is capitalized, update is not, equals, quote, false. I always put a space before and after it just to be safe. Some code can be finicky. But digestate isn't super important. Pig food, tarp, lime, you can modify these. Lime I would modify because it's very heavy, as you can tell. Pig food, you don't necessarily have to unless you do a lot of pig farming. I don't, so I won't be modifying it. Herbicide, you can modify. I personally won't because, again, I don't really use it because I don't really play the game with weeds. Silage additive, I will be modifying because I actually do from time to time like using them. The Hollamer's a nice looking fucking vehicle, man. Mineral feed, weeds, you can modify weed if you want. Stone, you don't have to modify this. But there is a mod, you can actually look for it and use the right website. Some websites like to provide pop-up after pop-up. There are websites that are better than that for fs22 and fs19 for mods, and 17 and 15. But there is a mod you can get for the stone picker. It's the same Demco one in the game, but it has a 9-meter working width, and it can have a 1 million capacity, and it automatically does not update mass. So if you wanted that, so you aren't, stopping your worker every time they get to 2,000, you can use that. Just modify the XML so it doesn't cost $500,000 to make it to the 1 million capacity. And that's very easy to do. You just can basically go right into configurations somewhere in the bottom and modify the price. I'll show that after. But yeah, simple as that. Everything else is simple. These are all the animals. You can change the weight of those, but you don't necessarily need to for obvious reasons. And these are just other bales. When you save that, you don't have to drag and drop because it's not in an XML. It is zip automatically. If I can find it, I'll show it real quick, but most likely I will not be able to find it because I have a lot of them, like a lot. So I'll try and find them real quick. No promises though. Lizard. Demco. Should be Demco. Stone pickers. Amazon. Yeah, I don't believe I'll be able to find it, unfortunately. But I will open I don't know. It's a familiar one. Okay. So I'll just show you real quick how to modify a value on an upgrade, for example. Now I'll do it on wheels because that's the most common one, pretty easy to see, and a lot of wheel upgrades don't really cost really much at all, but you'll see them because in fs22 the code is extensive on tires. So all you have to do is you find whatever configuration. It's wheel is the type, and then obviously configuration. Simple to understand, simple to look for. And you see the price, obviously. That's the price. Now, if I wanted to make this 800 instead of 8,000, there you go. You just change it to 800. Simple as that. I'm not too worried about it, but that's basically all you have to do to modify that. And you can do that to any one of them. That's 11,000. That's 1,000. Simple as that, That's all you have to do. And when you're done with it, you just go right back. Boom. You can go through the route of unzipping and then zipping it back up if you really want to, but you don't have to. Also, if you do want to open up this DDS, there are apps you can use. I use 123 Photos, but I wouldn't recommend using it because it wants you to buy it every time. It's ad placement. You can't blame them for wanting to make money, but sometimes they're kind of douchey about it. But either way, it's just because I have free trial days. You can use that app if you want to. You can actually, which I'll show real quick as well. I know I said it was a quick video. Shut the fuck up. But if you go into system, pretty sure it's system. If it's not, you can tell me to go fuck myself. Do it anyway. Let's see. So it'd be apps then. So you want to go to apps and default apps, and you can actually look this up. DDS, I'm pretty sure you can. Choose a default file type. If you can't, the other thing you can, it's laggy. It is very laggy. I have a lot of apps. So you can go to DDS. Now, you can actually change this to other things. Notepad++ won't work this, unfortunately. But if you do have a DDS that you want to open, which is just a photo, it's really just a photo, just a different format that they use, you can use some apps. I don't know if VLC would work. Try it, I suppose. I'm actually kind of curious if it would. That would make things a lot easier. And unfortunately, fortunately, does it work? And there's no audio codec, obviously. It's not possible to download a cryptographic signature for the downloaded file. Yeah, baby. See, it's a video player, so it's not going to be able to do it. So you can't just change it to VLC. Let me try another one just for the heck of it. Right here, might as well do it for people to see if they can or not. I just closed that. That's fine. Yeah, I wouldn't just... If you want to use Windows Media Player, you're able to use Windows Media Player. It only opens for a quick second because it's it's acting like it's a video, so just make sure to press the space bar. So yeah, boom. Essentially acting like a GIF, but a weird one. So there's all the information you need to know. Simple as that. Yeah, if you want to do that stuff, you're more than welcome to. Again, some things you don't have to modify, but I would highly recommend cotton bales and other bales if you do feel the need to as well. You can't obviously do this on console. It is modifying the code of the game. I don't think that PlayStation or Xbox really appreciate that. It's understandable. But either way, hope everyone has a great day, and yeah, eat some breadsticks, I guess.